Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for getting out of bed.
Early on
Right.
a Friday. Early on a Friday.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I'm on. Yeah. Day two at the conference is always a little bit slower, but I am so happy to be here with 5 of my favorite people on Earth, honestly. And so I'll introduce myself first. I'll hand it off to them to introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into the meat of it for why everybody's here on building Bitcoin community. My name is Miles Suter. I lead the Bitcoin team at Cash App, and I've actually, over the last year, 2 plus, interacted with each person on this stage in some capacity in growing Bitcoin, accelerating Bitcoin, and bringing it to diverse populations and people that need it the most, and really pioneering spreading it through the culture and throughout the world. And I was blessed to spend over 6 months in El Salvador at the Bitcoin Beach project, working directly with Mike and Chimbera. And I honestly got to say, those were probably the best days of my life. It was amazing, amazing people down there, and just so amazing to see all the results that have come from it. So that's me, and I'll hand it off to our guests here to introduce themselves.
I'm Mike Peterson, one of the team members of Bitcoin Beach, and just a real quick story about Miles. He showed up at our house in El Salvador. I told my wife the day before, I said, hey, we have a friend of mine that's going to come stay with us. She's like, well, how do you know him? I met him on Twitter. She gave me this horrified look. She's like, seriously, you're letting some person you met on Twitter just come stay in our house with us? And now Miles is her favorite Bitcoiner. So that was my introduction to Miles.
This morning with you not around.
It's my favorite too. So. I'm Roman Martinez. Many people know me about Chimbera. Chimbera is my nickname. I grew up in El Sonte, and I'm part of Bitcoin Beach and Hop Hop team. Some of our team members couldn't make it for the visa's problems, but Mike and me were here. So it's an honor to be here.
Yes. His first time out the country, out of El
Yes.
Salvador and in the US. I'm Josh Young, Chief of Staff at New Story, and our mission is to pioneer solutions to end global homelessness.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yusuf Nassari. I'm the co-founder and director of philanthropy of the Built to a Bitcoin Foundation. Super honored and privileged to be on this panel. This panel is all full of families, so I'm very excited about this conversation.
And hey, everyone, I'm Courtney Robinson, and I run financial inclusion and public policy development at Block. So I get to work with Miles all the time, whether he wants to work with me or not. And my work in the personal space and in the professional space is all dedicated towards making sure financial services are equitably available to everyone, no matter where they're from, no matter where they are, what they were born into. And so that's why I'm here with my colleagues talking about building Bitcoin communities.
Amazing. Well, it's clear that we all believe in Bitcoin and believe that it has a specific role to play in bringing economic empowerment to people across the world. I want to start with you, though, Courtney, in that we have a shared mission across both local communities, like down in El Zonte, but also at corporations. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit more about what Block's doing, and then we'll dive into more about El Salvador.
Cool. So at Block, our mission is economic empowerment, and we believe that everyone should have equitable access to financial services. And we were founded in 2009 after the financial crisis, and our founders saw a lot of the issues that came from that, right? Like what happens when financial systems are not open and transparent, when there are adverse incentives built into the way people access money. And so we're working to change that. And one of the things that we do with our work in Bitcoin is making sure that, again, it's completely accessible no matter let me back up. We all know that traditional financial systems, you can be blocked out of them because it's where you're from, where you were born, your name, your prior incarceration status, all kind of things can get you put right out of being able to access safe, transparent banking. And Bitcoin solves for that. And so in my work on the financial inclusion side, it's, Bitcoin is for everyone. We know that. But how do we make it so it's accessible to someone or everyone, no matter where they are in their journey, what they know about money, banking, anything, period. So we started up a Bitcoin endowment fund in 2021. Had to remember 2020 is like a trilogy. I forget. Was it 2020? I don't know which part we're in yet. But we started a Bitcoin endowment, $5 million endowment, and we use the dividends from our holdings with another company to give out grants. And our first recipient was Black Bitcoin Billionaire. I think Mark spoke yesterday here, and they have used their grant to bring Bitcoin education, run their clubhouses, do things in person. And we actually just picked our second recipient, the Bitcoin Classic. And the Bitcoin Classic is the first basketball tournament that rewards champions in Bitcoin. And so they have had events all over the country. You meet people at the basketball court. That's like a communal space for a lot of folks, right? Like legendary places like Rucker Park. So you're going to show up to ball, and then you win some Bitcoin and you learn about it too, whether you're a spectator or a participant. So we're always trying to find ways to bring the information to everyone who might not have exposure.
That is so amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Courtney.
Yes.
Mike, I know you had a story that you wanted to kind of lead with to set the tone about what was going on in El Salvador.
Yeah, I was actually in this room yesterday. I was sitting in one of the sessions on Bitcoin country adoption, and Maria Luisa, who's the economic minister of El Salvador, was talking about all the changes that they've seen in El Salvador in the last 6 months. And I was thinking back to, it was literally only less than a year and a half ago, Roman had said, hey, we're going to go meet with the economic minister. And Miles was in El Zante at that time, and I'm like, hey, we're going into San Salvador. You want to come with us? And we drug him along. He didn't even know what he was getting into. And all of a sudden, we're in this meeting with the economic minister and a number of her aides, and we had a chance to spend a few hours with her just explaining all of the things that we thought could happen if El Salvador would to make this kind of groundbreaking decision to adopt Bitcoin as currency, how it would bring businesses in, it would bring jobs in, it would bring tourism in, and really it could change the narrative about El Salvador overnight from a country where people were only thought about gangs and violence to a place where there was people looking towards the future, that they were adopting financial innovation, that they were adopting hard money. And I remember being surprised in that meeting because they actually took us seriously. We were sitting there and they were actually taking notes and asking really pointed questions about this. And it's just crazy that a year and a half later, like we've seen all these things come to play. Things I told her would happen that I didn't know would happen, but they actually have happened. So I was very glad when they made that choice. I'm like, ooh, I hope actually all these things that I mentioned actually come to play. But even in that and thinking of all the things that have happened on the national scale, I think one thing people don't, sometimes gets lost is that's not the real story. That's amazing. It's so amazing that all these great jobs are flowing into El Salvador, that this investment, all this stuff is happening on the countrywide scale. But where Bitcoin really has an impact is in the communities, in those who have been kind of kept out of the traditional financial system, who have always been kind of trying to play catch up, who have never really been able even to get on the first rung of the ladder.
Exactly.
And so we've seen that in El Salvador, just the impact that's made. And so I'm so excited that Roman is here and to be able to share kind of his story and his history in El Zante and how that really has changed his life and the people around him.
Hello. My English is not that well, but I'm going to try to do my best. As a kid that grew up in El Zonte, to see where we were when we were kids, like Jorge Valenzuela is not here, Irving Palma is not here. They couldn't make it. I told you for the visas problem. And by the way, I think Bitcoin will fix that too one day. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And So when we were kids, the opportunities were almost nothing, right? Like, there were a few options, like to be a fisherman or farmer or come here to the United States and working here and trying to send money back to our families. And this dream that came for changing our community with Bitcoin Beach and Hop House is how we can empowerment our young people to dream here. And many people say, hey, you can do it. Fight for your dreams.
Yeah.
You can do it. But no one gives you the tools and the knowledge that you need for really fighting for your dreams where you are. That's right. So we empowerment young people at Hop House. And we're working in 4 pillars, like education, recreation, spiritual, and empowerment. And we find in Bitcoin the perfect tool to empowerment people, to teach people in our community. One thing that no one teaches you around the world, there is financial education. No one teaches you what money is, how money works. But we make transactions every day.
Right.
Working for money, we save money, expecting that we will have like a beautiful life with a lot of money one day.
Amen.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you don't grow up with all these tools, right? And what we see now is that that dream that started so small took over our country, and now our people are dreaming, and there is hope in our community for the first time. There is hope in El Salvador. And we're excited to see all these things happening and see the opportunities that the kids and the young people have now. And we definitely see that we're moving us for a better future. And it's beautiful to see people from all over the world dreaming with us, dreaming with El Salvador. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Chimbera just said, and I've seen that mindset shift firsthand of the people looking up to people like Chimbera and Jorge Valenzuela. I'm going to speak about Ismael for one moment. He is a 19-year-old kid. He's actually, so I focus on affordable housing, innovation specifically within affordable housing, and providing opportunities for a path to home ownership. And Ismael, at 19 years old, a self-made entrepreneur, is actually paying for his home for his mom and himself with Bitcoin in El Zante.
Wow.
And that's because of that hope that's been inspired by Bitcoin Beach team and the community leaders like Chimbera. When you have role models who are doing it, your world opens up. Your world opens up, and you can imagine beyond some of the, we call it survival mode living. And I'll talk about New Story now for a minute. I'm really proud to be a part of this organization. We focus on innovation within affordable housing. So decreasing the cost of construction, increasing the speed of building homes, all while maintaining or even increasing the quality of home building. So, and with that, creating a path to home ownership for families who haven't had the opportunity before. So if you're thinking ahead, that's where the Bitcoin comes in, providing opportunities that just weren't available. And we are building a Bitcoin-enabled community in El Zante. It'll be a 250 to 500 home project that will start in May. We constructed a pilot community with the help of Bitcoin Beach organizing and donating land to house some of those community leaders. Ismael is one of those home recipients. And we build homes for less than $10,000, and we're a nonprofit. And just to brag on the organization and historically what we've done, we were one of the first nonprofits to ever be a part of Y Combinator. So a startup accelerator focused on for-profit businesses. It produced Airbnb and Coinbase and DoorDash, a long list of for-profit companies I'm sure everybody's heard of. We were one of the first nonprofits to get the resources. And our first innovation was just the way we accept donations. So a full 100% transparency model where we have two completely separate bank accounts. One we call the Builders Group. They donate privately to this bank account, funds things like my salary, events, and then separate that goes directly to construction. We've since been named 4 times Fast Company's most innovative company within the nonprofit space. And Apple TV, thanks. Apple TV made a documentary about our building the world's first 3D printed home and community. And we brought that innovation to the world's most vulnerable families. We built a community in Nacajuca, Mexico that used a 3D printer, and if you can't imagine it, it looks like soft serve ice cream going in a circle, made with cement and a 10% proprietary mix. And it's a pursuit of excellence at the highest level, also with a generous heart to do so, which is a unique combination which inspired me to join News Story. But that 3D printed project got put on the front of the New York Times. It was featured in Forbes, and a long list of PR went viral a couple years ago. And now our next flashy innovation is going to be Bitcoin-enabled mortgages.
Amazing.
So super excited.
Wow.
In hearing everybody speak up here, I'm so struck by the emotion in everybody's voice, because we've all observed the impact that it has directly on people's lives. And I think it's such a great testament for why Bitcoin is so much more important than flipping JPEGs or any of the other stuff going on in the industry.
Preach.
in terms of people that have been in the mix and on the ground for many, many years, there's nobody that I've felt resonates with that more than Yusuf here. And so please tell us, please tell us more about all you've done across the world with your initiatives.
Oh man, I'm super inspired and motivated by everyone's story here, and that's truly the intrinsic value that I think that Bitcoin brings to the world. It's the story. Bitcoin is the universal language of the people, and I truly believe that. I think it was Matt Odell that said it on stage the other day, that the Bitcoin community is what makes Bitcoin real. Without it, Bitcoin is just code, right? And so I'm very privileged to be in the position that I'm in. About 6 years ago, I was running a traditional fiat organization, building water wells around the world, and I had a prospective donor that made a contribution, a very significant contribution. The financial platform that I was using at the time flagged this as fraud because it was so large and from the region of the world that it came from. So what led was an email correspondence, reaching back out to him, thanking him for his anticipated contribution. But in a very uncomfortable manner, I had to ask him, is there another form of payment that you can make for this contribution? His response to me was one sentence: do you accept Bitcoin? And this was in 2017. And I was like, what the heck is Bitcoin? So as anyone else would in the States and around the world, I Googled, what is Bitcoin, literally. And that person on the other side happened to be Ray Youssef, who's the co-founder of our foundation. So he orange-pilled me, Ray orange-pilled me on email. So in the past 6 years, we've been able to work in 10 different countries on 3 different continents, building 10 different schools, and being able to impact communities in a multitude of ways. With the access of natural resources, water, vegetation, education, but most importantly, empowerment. Above all else, in our curriculum at our schools, financial literacy and Bitcoin education is at the top of the list. It's extremely important. Many folks ask me, this past 3 months of this year, we're in April now, I've been to Nigeria, Rwanda, Kenya, South Africa, and El Salvador. And my job, it's not a job, it's a passion. Many people ask me, how does it feel to leave home so much? You're leaving your family behind. What happens is these communities that we work in become our home. They become our second family. So for me, I know the names, I know the faces, I know their stories. So there's an obligation that I feel, that we feel as Bitcoiners in our communities to be able to serve them, right? But education is important. We keep talking about education is needed for adoption, but what about the education that they can provide us? What about learning from them, right? And I think we need to kind of emphasize the importance behind listening, behind growing with these individuals and learning from them, because they're the ones that are going to change the world with Bitcoin. We are the initiators, right? They're the ones that are going to be implementing this on a daily basis to empower them every single day.
It's awesome you said, sorry, I'll give it back to you. It's awesome you said that it's so important to listen. One of the innovations I'm most proud of at New Story is our lean participatory design process, where we interview families before we even start construction so that we can hear their worries, concerns, their hopes, and their dreams. And we try to design a community and homes together that will fit their needs. And we've seen horror stories within nonprofits and governments when they just build without asking first.
Yes.
Like
You cannot go into a
even
community
simple
and
things like
right.
in Africa, like
No.
a tribe that if you have a toilet in your house, it's unsanitary, they won't live there. And a nonprofit just built a bunch of US-style homes, all the toilets were in the house, and empty, completely
Right.
empty.
At times, there are communities that we've worked in that have destroyed those projects, and because the latrines are what they're used to, right?
Right.
And you can't expect to have all of the answers, right? That's why it's so important to be out in the field, on the ground, to truly connect with these individuals. Bitcoin is the means, right? It's the catalyst, but it's the human being, it's the peer-to-peer kind of interaction that's most important, that I believe with this
Absolutely.
technology.
Couldn't agree more.
Yusuf, you previously used a term in talking with me that usually gives me anxiety, KYC. but in the context, you dropped it as know your community.
Yes.
This is open to anybody, but talk to us about getting to know a community and why that matters and the similarities you find across.
So we have a philosophy within Built with Bitcoin Foundation that is we don't just build schools, we build communities, right? And in order to understand that community, you need to be there with the people. You need to breathe the air that they breathe, embrace them, eat the food that they eat, dance and embrace the music and the culture as much as you possibly can. So every single region around the world that we work in, there's a different identity, there's a different language, there's a different tribe, there's a different culture, right? And so part of our job, our responsibility, I feel, is to understand as much as you possibly can. How can you go into a community and build trust without being willing to assimilate and understand where they're coming from? You have to be at the ground level, right? You cannot think that you are here and they are here and you're reaching down and giving them and you're helping them. No, we are in servitude of. There needs to be a mutual relationship and respect amongst us and the community. Without it, there's nothing that can happen. Look what's happening in El Zonte, right? If they were going in there to do this kind of work, and Chimbera and Jorge and Mike, who are actually living in this environment, seeing these people day to day, right? Imagine if they were coming from overseas thinking that they had all of the solutions and answers. They would be kicked out in a matter of minutes, right? And that's the way that it should be. You got to be genuine and you got to be authentic.
One thing.
Yeah.
One thing to just tag on to that, we've seen that specifically even when it comes to the user experience with Bitcoin. And so many times the wallets and the way that Bitcoin's designed to use is designed by engineers, people that they're going to build it for the things they want it, with all the bells and whistles they want. And they're designing these products for people that live very different lives than them. So they're living, in a condo in, New York, but they're building for somebody who's living in a home that doesn't have constant electricity, that has a dirt floor, and the people have very different needs for a Bitcoin wallet to be able to transact with. And so that's been something that's been really special for us at Bitcoin Beach to have our partners with Galloway Money. They came in and they knew that, and they said, hey, we know this back-end stuff, but we don't know what the people actually want on the front end. So can we come live in El Zonte and watch how they're using it and get the feedback and then put the tools in place to make it work better for them. And that really is what made the difference. Bitcoin has to work better than cash. It has to work better than money on the practical level. And if there's friction points, if it's more challenging, the businesses aren't going to want to accept it. And so we've seen even just doing simple things where they don't have to create an invoice every time, and there's ways to make it faster than cash. That is what drives Bitcoin adoption. And it's so important to know how the actual users want to use it rather than the designers and the engineers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also,
Go on, Chimera.
Also, we need to be empathy too, right? That Bitcoin will representing different things for everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And we see it like here, for the majority of the people, Bitcoin is just an asset. In El Salvador, it's a currency.
Right, right,
It's a monetary network.
right.
Right.
It's
Circular economy.
It's a circular economy.
Yeah.
But I think that's really important when we educate people, that we understand or we ask ourselves, what Bitcoin representing for me? Like internet, We all use internet for different things. Some just for being in the social, some for work, some for building things. So Bitcoin is the same, but if we understanding when we have someone in front of us what Bitcoin can representing for them, that will be easier to teach them and educate them about it. And this is the case, like, I remember when we were like around communities teaching people about Bitcoin, we were like, Bitcoin is digital money. Your credit card, your debit card, and they're like, I don't have debit card, I don't have credit card. So it's like, understanding what Bitcoin representing for us in El Salvador, or like many of you here, you can go to outside of here, order a coffee, bring your credit card and your debit card, and you pay digitally. That's a luxury that many people around the world doesn't have. So if we understanding that, it's gonna be more easier.
Yeah, no doubt.
To educate people.
And that fact is what actually inspired our project in El Zante. Well, first of all, it was Bitcoin Beach's success inspired our project in El Zante. I saw the Forbes article last summer, and then a lot of other publishers published articles about Bitcoin Beach and what was happening there. And I'm so obsessed about solving global homelessness. Everything I see, I think, how can we use this to get more people in safe homes? And I looked up, researched, and found out over 70% of Latin America in general, El Salvador as well, is unbanked. So they can't get lines of credit. Any loans that are offered to them are predatory, sometimes as much as 100% interest a week. And if we're able to prove that Bitcoin and the Lightning Network can make, and you can cut out a lot of the operations of collecting bills and make it easier for families who now don't have to travel 2 hours on a bus to the bank, wait in line, walk away with no proof of payment because it's cash and written down. If they didn't write it down correctly, now you didn't make that payment as far as they're concerned. And then 2 hours back, banks are only open during work time, so you have to take a day off of work. And being able to use the Lightning Network and what's being developed in the technology on Bitcoin is going to be so useful, I think, not only for our project, which is just the start, 500 homes in El Zante, which we're super excited about, and it's a big step, but we think a similar model could be used for millions of families and provide that path for home ownership.
Yeah, it's an amazing journey.
Just real quick, it's funny because we have seen that be so transformational in El Salvador. Yesterday, we stayed for the strike announcement, and my wife turned to me and looked. She's like, isn't that the stuff that's already happening in El Salvador that we're doing there? I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, El Salvador is leading the way in this.
I want to double click a little bit on the accessibility front that you mentioned. I think you're so right. Nicola from Galoy was my neighbor for a month, and it was so cool to see them getting hands-on with the local community, building products that serve their needs. And really, that's part of what drew my interest to El Salvador as well. How do we design products for people, for countries and people that are 70% unbanked? There's no Cash App in El Salvador yet, at least. And so just having explaining basic fintech services that we take for granted in the U.S., like just making that leap is a wall they need to climb to start, let alone talking about Bitcoin, about private keys, about mining, and everything that's involved there. Can you talk about some of the challenges of kind of onboarding so many people in that manner?
Yeah. The challenges, I think, sometimes is we make it too complicated. What we've found is get it into people's hands, get them using Bitcoin, then that drives their desire to understand more about it. And I think people underestimate the abilities of people around the world. A lot of times there's an assumption just because somebody's poor that they're stupid. I mean, that's the reality. That's the assumption that's made. But that's not true at all. And so these people actually have a much higher degree of necessity to make these tools work. And so they teach us stuff, the way that they're doing things, when new things are introduced, the way they're using them. I'm like, wow, I would have never thought to use it like that. And so I think that is the key, is to just putting these tools in people's hands.
That's so well said.
For sure.
One of the things I'm most excited about is seeing similar experiments pop up in other places. I know of one in Guatemala, one in South Africa, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico. I'm so inspired by these entrepreneurs and local community members wanting to replicate the success. And I have the desire to go visit each one of them and try to help out again. But I know, Chimbera, you're actively working on trying to make this a repeatable process and going to mentor other communities and inspire them with what you've done in the past. Can you talk through some of that?
Yeah, sure. It's beautiful to see this project inspired by this little dream that started in El Sonte with few locals and to change our community, you know, and it's beautiful that people understanding that, because sometimes it's the perception that Mike is a special person, that I'm a special person, that you can do this, but I cannot do this, you know, and people need to understanding that we're a normal person with a dream, and we stand up. And communities and leaders around the world need to understanding that if they want, you are the change that you want to see. So if you want to see a change, you need to be involved. You cannot be sitting there and expecting that everything will change. So it's beautiful to see all these projects happening now. I also want to visit in so we can go together.
Perfect.
But yeah, if our work will help them and to make their work easier to start it, because it's not easier when you start something when you don't have like a model or a line to follow. We're more than happy to share. I think same for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're just happy to see this happening and exciting. So
That's fun.
We don't want to be the only ones.
Right, like being able to see the successes and the challenges and everything that's come out of the work that you've done makes it easier for individuals, for businesses, for everyone who wants to come in and sort of do the same thing, to not have to start with a blank slate. It's just go in, know your community, and see what's worked. So everything that you guys have done has been the boilerplate, so thank you.
There's so much focus on the developing world, but we in this country as well have a financial access problem, a financial opportunity and education problem as well. Courtney, where do you think we need to improve as a country, and what role does Bitcoin have to play here?
Well.
Let me tee you up.
What do I, Courtney, the individual, think about the history of systemic financial services issues in our country? A lot. So I think that Bitcoin is a primary example, or like a great example of being able to have access and not having an intermediary that stops you. Like, it's so easy to take for granted the ability to walk up and get a debit card or get a checking account or be able to spend money or do certain things. And all of that is predicated upon who or what gives you permission to do that. We do not have, like, all of our financial institutions here in the United States, rules, regulations, all kinds of things that keep everybody from being able to access. So that's how people end up going to payday lenders or going to like a check casher and losing all of their money and just all of these other things that shouldn't be happening here. So the promise of Bitcoin and everything that it can be for folks to be able to keep your money in your pocket, to be able to send it to your family, to do what you need to do. I mean, like the use cases for a true money, a currency of the internet that's owned by the people and accessible by everyone is amazing. And so I can't wait to see how that grows here because, Miles, like, you teed me up. Like you said, we don't have it exactly right here yet, so...
Yeah.
When Bitcoin Beach in the U.S.
When Bitcoin Beach in the U.S., hopefully soon. I mean, being able to see the circular economy aspect come into communities who historically have their money taken from them as soon as it's there, right? Like, you get money, you don't keep it there, you don't keep it with the person owning the small business in the corner, like the bodega down the street. It's going out, it's going all over the place. But if we can get it so small business owners are taking their payments in Bitcoin, so residents are transacting or doing things in Bitcoin and the money stays there and they're building up their community, I think there's so much promise there. Like all of the Black Wall Street, like we've seen, like Tulsa, all those kind of things could be back again with an open financial system.
Yeah.
Woo!
Circling back on that and how you called it, all they need is the tools. You two mentioning that's really all that. They're not behind in capability. They're just behind in opportunity.
Right.
And the more we can provide more opportunities for them to become who they're meant to be, that's really all. Like, to provide them an opportunity to grow into the people they were meant to be. We do a lot of research and surveying before homeownership and then years after. And there are tons of statistics that show how much difference a home can make. I think it's life's most valuable assets because of the way I grew up. Single mom, 2 younger brothers. We shared a single bedroom. And we always had a safe room. We didn't have a lot, but we had each other, and we had enough to be able to focus on sports and school, get good grades, and then once we got into college, my younger brothers, Harvard and Columbia, respectively, from a public school raised by a single mom.
That's awesome.
But it's not, we're not like, the thing is, we're not special. Like, we just had opportunities and a good guide from my mom and belief that it could be done, right? And that's what we're providing in El Zante. And when Chimbera said, there's just, back when I was a kid, there was an opportunity. You could do a couple things, or you could go to the U.S. You could try. Our intake survey, we ask families, how likely are you to try to go to the U.S.? And it's usually above 90%. And then not even 2 years later, our follow-up surveys, it's always less than 5%.
Oh, wow. That's big.
Once people have a place to come home to, be home sweet home, and they can dream bigger beyond their basic needs, there is a whole world of opportunity. They don't need to run off to an imaginary world of opportunity.
So here.
I mean, I feel
Bitcoin's making that possible for so many more families. Yeah.
I feel like we could go on for a whole nother hour, and I kind of wish we had that time. Mike Peterson, I want to ask you one final thing. I'm looking out at the audience, dedicated Bitcoiners from all over the world. If some of them are thinking about going and doing this, what would be your parting message to them? And what's your prediction for the year?
I would say just go do it. If we can start something, I mean, to Miles's dismay, he knows I still use Earthlink for my email. So if we could be part of this revolution, all of you guys could do that. And we're seeing these communities around the world that we're being able to now support. And Bitcoin is decentralized, and this movement's going to be decentralized. So this is going to need thousands of small groups of people that just take charge and make that movement into it. And it's amazing to see that difference. This Sunday, actually, 60 Minutes is going to be doing a segment on Bitcoin Beach. Like, how in the world are we going to be on 60 Minutes?
Blessings.
So your grandparents are going to actually understand for the first time that Bitcoin can make a difference for people in, at all levels. For people in the developing world, this is going to be the thing that levels the playing field. And so all of you guys have the power to do that same thing. And we hope you'll come visit us in El Salvador. We're building not only the affordable housing initiatives there, we're also trying to build another Bitcoin community so that jobs and stuff come in. So we're doing another Bitcoin housing development in El Zonte, and we're trying to make sure that El Salvador leads the way in this so that it can go out into the rest of the world.
One little spark in Central America, and we're seeing it spread all throughout the world, which is so amazing. Courtney, Yusuf, Josh, Chimbera, Mike, thank you all so much for all you're doing for the world. Let's continue to change it.
Do it.